Welcome, fellow bookworms to Tippers Den. My name is Whitney, and it is time for another Monday Musings. So it is going to be the last 2 days of the Tarot Readathon, which of course is put on by Deja at Deja's Book World, I think, and then Noelle at Noelle Sunday. I've had such a fun time participating. It was a last minute decision. I decided to join Team Swords after watching Bo at Bo's Books, who's one of the co-hosts for that team, talking about it, and the other two co-hosts, Alexis at Alexis Fully Booked, and then the Ruby's Digest, which is Christina Mo. I love watching all those channels, and I just couldn't resist. So I'm really glad I did end up joining. I had a pretty good reading week. It was a weird week. I ended up sold a couple books, so I did have to run in a couple times to the post office to get those mailed out. We went grocery shopping. My husband had to go down to the bigger city on Friday just to get a delivery. And so I decided to go down with him because I've been knitting. I've really been enjoying that. And I wanted to get more colors for the current project. And then I decided I wanted to knit my mother-in-law something for Christmas. So I got a couple colors so I can knit something for her for Christmas. Probably just a blanket won't be what it is. And so on Friday we were down in the bigger city for most of the day because it didn't get dropped off till later in the day. And so we went and went to Hobby Lobby, and then we went to Sprouts because he likes the freeze-dried apricots, and he just doesn't like to get them delivered during the hottest months. We're over 100 degrees at this point. So he just wanted to see if maybe they had it. They didn't really have, you would think Sprouts would, but they had like the ones you could scoop and like those same ones in like a little container, but they're not very good and they had no other options. So that was kind of a disappointment. But we went there, and we also went to one of the like used bookstores. They also have like new stuff as well. So I've gotten a couple books from there as well. So it was a good day, but long. And yeah, and yesterday I played World of Warcraft with him. And then it was my family book club discussion, which my niece actually read it, but she wasn't on the discussion this time. Like, I don't know if she forgot or she was just busy or what, but she actually read the book this time. Normally she does it. And then my mom and my sister, neither one finished. They started it, but they didn't finish the book. But we had a little chat, a little bit hectic because my sister had my niece's 2 kids over because they were going to go to the water park today, and so she had them over to spend the night. And so that was going on in the background, and then one of my mom's dogs snuffled up something, and so that was going on. So it was a little hectic, but it was nice to chat with them anyway. And so yeah, but I did get some books finished and read. So let's, before we talk about the books though, do the penultimate tarot pull. Again, I use the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshitani. Wait, what are you doing over there, sweetheart? Like leaning over to sniff some of the books. I love this tarot deck. It's about folklore, folk tales, and mythology from all around the world. There is a book that goes along with it that I also have, which is nice. But I've been doing a pull every day to get those points for my team, and so we have 2 more pulls. Again, I just kind of shuffle like this till either one falls or one sticks in my hand, whatever the case may be, but it's hard to hold up like this. So I'm just going to do this down here, and we'll see. Okay, that was quick. I got like 2, but we're going to go with this one. And thank goodness it's upright. That hasn't been happening. And we got the Tower. I think this must be Rapunzel based on it. So let's go ahead, see what the Tower is. I don't think I've gotten the Tower yet, so that's nice. Let's see. Here we are. and it is, in fact, Rapunzel. So it's, of course, Germany, and it's a German fairy tale. The tower is about feeling safe and secure before everything is suddenly upended. Beliefs are shattered, understandings ruptured, and everything is destroyed right down to the very foundation. Perhaps the foundation was flawed to begin with. Upright, it means massive change, upheaval, catastrophe, rebuilding, and revelation. And so, yeah, still better than the reverse, which is feeling trapped, delaying disaster, fear, pain, and avoidance. I got one the other day. I don't remember which one it was. I want to say it was, maybe it was the Ten of Wands, but both reverse and upright were negative things. So I've been getting a lot of reverse cards lately, so I'm glad I got that upright. So I hope there's no massive change coming because I don't do change well. So we'll just hope maybe there's like a revelation that I'm gonna have about something, but I definitely don't want massive change. But I'll think on that and um just ponder the meaning of it later after I do this video. So let's go ahead and get into the books now. So the first book I finished was my family's book club pick, and that's Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. This one was not for the Tarot Readathon, but it did happen to work for the weekly challenge, which last week was to read a book you think you'll fly through. So I was able to do it for the weekly challenge, but it wasn't for one of my polls at all. And I ended up giving this 4 stars, but I actually really enjoyed it. So you basically have this small village of Amity Falls, and they're very secluded, and so a supply run is going to the city to bring back supplies before the winter hits because they get snowed in and they can't cross the pass once winter hits. And they end up not coming back. One of the horses comes back just attacked, and there's no, like, they got attacked somehow. And so they're like back and forth, like, do we send more people out, do we not, like, do we send people to look for these people, like, kind of what's going on. And there's these 3 elders of town which are descendants of the founders of the town, and so they kind of they all rule and they make votes and such. um and so we're following Ellery and the events of this town. Like, they end up getting snowed in, they don't have supplies, everybody's struggling, and chaos, like infighting and suspicions because weird things keep happening, vandalisms and fires and such. And so there's all kind of suspicious of each other and such. And there's these beings called the Watchers, and basically they'll, if you do something for them, they'll give you a small favor. And that's the whole, title of the story and such. And then there's also this trapper that shows up who's around Ellery's age, and so there's a romance there with him. And yeah, I really enjoyed the vibes of this. I just wish that the author had done more with the Watchers and the bees, because they keep bees on their little homestead. um, and the bees are part of the beginning, but then they obviously in the winter they're not going to be a prevalent part, but they just kind of fall off. And I get why she had that bee aspect, it ties into the Watchers and such, but I don't know, I wish that had been more prevalent and the Watchers had been more prevalent. But what she did in the end and how everything like came together, I enjoyed. But there's also a situation with the parents that just like never really got fully resolved, or like you can assume what happened, but it never got resolved. And I like it spelled out for me. Like, I want it on page resolved. And so I didn't really like how that just kind of dropped off also. But yeah, overall, like, the vibes, like, I could totally see myself rereading this like during spooky season, like winter. It spans seasons, so it's not just in winter, but that's like the big season in the book because that's when they're cut off and they're struggling. So I really love this overall, even though I only gave it 4 stars. My husband and I also finished Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinniman. I did not bring my notebook in, so I forget which card this was for. I totally forgot to grab it. But this one was for a book with survival elements, and I'll try to remember to put which card it was up here. And this did also work, even though I read it slowly because I was reading it with my husband. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I marked that it worked for the weekly challenge because this is a book that I, based on reading the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, those are massive books, and my husband and I were flying through them. Um, and this one, I think we read pretty fast, even though we both weren't really enjoying it. So this one was hard to rate because for me personally, it probably sat more at a 3-star, but I still think the writing, like there was no obvious problems with the writing or anything like that. And I do take that into consideration that like when I'm doing my star rating, it's not always just about the enjoyment, it's how well it's written. And I do think Matt Dinniman writes stories really well. This just wasn't quite a story for me. And I don't know how much of that is because it's hard not to compare it to the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, because we flew through those, like we binge read them, and absolutely loved them. And then you have this one, and it just fell flat in comparison. And it's also a lot of like warfare type game play, which is not my thing, and war strategy. Like I typically don't enjoy that. I have read like the Red Rising series, like yes, I can read a book and get some enjoyment out of it, but it's not my thing. Like it's not something I like. And so there's that. I did like the social commentary and such, like that's there just like in the Dungeon Crawler Carl books. But the characters fell flat. They're all kind of honestly a little bit idiotic, which I think is on purpose because they're like these, farm kids, and on this planet that doesn't have access to like Earth and such. So there's kind of like a naivety there, I guess. But they're battling to survive. The Operation Bounce House is this program where they send in people from Earth can pay to play, and they're coming in to kill the terrorists, but really it's just these farmers that they're after. And so yeah, I don't know. It fell flat, and part of the characters falling a little flat. There is kind of a big friend group, and we're not getting time to. He didn't. It's a standalone, so he didn't have time to build it up like in Dungeon Crawler Carl. But Dungeon Crawler Carl, the characters hit for me right off the bat, and that just wasn't the case here. So I did end up giving it 4 star because I think the writing is good. It's just for me personally, it was a little bit more of a 3-star read, just because it's not my not my thing. And then I read The Princess Bride by William Goldman. I was hoping to get this on audio, but they only have the good parts version, which, you know, is mentioned here. And so I actually want to listen to the good parts. It's only like 4 hours. But yeah, I love the movie, and it did not age well. There's a slur word for the Spaniard that is said in the Princess Bride story itself. This author, like, and I get it's written in a different time period, but for me, I try to give a little bit of grace. So, like, the slur for the Spaniard, okay, I didn't like it, but, you know, doing slurs and such weren't as big of a deal. But the fat phobia in here, like, it is so prevalent, not only, in the Princess Bride story, but in the interjections as well. And I like the Princess Bride story. I gave this 3 stars mainly for nostalgia reason because of the movie. And the Princess Bride, the story itself is good, even though there's a little bit, that slur for the Spaniard, the like in the beginning, it's talking about the 20 most beautiful women, and one of them like was like a servant girl, and the queen didn't like how her husband's eyes, and so she found her weakness of chocolate and just would leave chocolate around, so she got really big, and then the king wasn't as interested in her, and yada yada, things like that. But in the beginning, because you have the author and he's interjecting and he's talking about the time he was, and it's all fictional, but he's talking about the time he was sick and his dad read him this book, The Princess Bride, the story. So he's talking about it and he's abridging it, is what it is. So he has interjections and such. But like the first part where he's like talking, it was completely unnecessary. He's basically talking, he name drops all these projects he's worked on and all these publishing houses, which was just annoying. And then like he's like, oh, I had to go to LA, and my cold shrink of a wife was like, don't find any bombshells. And he's like, they don't exist anymore. And then he finds this beautiful woman with these big breasts, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just disgusting. So it already, like, right off the bat, I don't like this narrator. Like, right off the bat, I'm just disgusted by him. His son is fat and waddles, and it's such a disappointment. Like, and then like later on, they have a reconciliation, and his son's all upset because he's fat and nobody loves him, and yada yada yada. And he's like, I love you, and oh, Papa. And like, they have this magical reconciliation. And then his son like shoots up and goes from 5'8" to 6'3" and gets in shape. And women love him because he's so good looking now. Just disgusting. Just disgusting. I don't care what time period you were written in. So that really turned me off. So really, this was more of a 2-star. But for the Princess Bride, that part, the good parts, the story itself, like the nostalgia factor is there, and I really did enjoy that part of it. But the interjections that revolved around the story itself, those were fine. But about his life, like, just disgusting. Like, all you did was show me that you're misogynistic, fat phobic, a horrible father, and a horrible husband, and I don't like you. So I don't like you as a narrator. So that was probably one of my biggest disappointments of the month, just because I was so excited about finally getting it read because I love the movie so much, and then just a lot of problematic commentary from the narrator. And then I did read Big Girl Blitz. This definitely worked for the weekly challenge. Princess Bride did not. This one was for the Sun, and it was in the third spot, so 3-word title, and um, I did not use it for the weekly challenge because I didn't think I was going to fly through it, even though I actually kind of read it pretty fast. But then I read Big Girl Blitz by Danielle Allen. This is the third book in the Curved series. And this did work for the weekly challenge. I knew I was going to fly through it. And it was, I got the Wheel of Fortune, which was a mood read, and then it was in the second spot, so I could go plus or minus, and it actually worked for Justice, which is what I used it for, even though it was also a mood read, because since I got it, I think it came out April, I want to say. But anyway, since I've gotten it, I wanted to read it, and so it was a mood read, but it also worked for Justice, which was BIPOC, disabled, or queer author. And Danielle Allen is a, a person of color. So that works. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. 4 stars. I gave every book in the series a 4-star, but I really loved all of them. There are just things that didn't quite fly for me. So in this one, we're following Jasmine, which has always been my favorite of the friend group because I thought she was the most relatable um, to me. And so, especially Dina is not relatable to me at all. But basically, we're following Jasmine in this one, and she's dealing with her aunt is on hospice, and so she's dealing with that. And so that part of the story, like the emotion and such, was so good. And then she meets Lamar, and they hit it off, and they both like he's a football player. He has a lot going on. She has a lot going on with her aunt, and so they like we don't want. I don't want. Neither one of them said they wanted a relationship. They just don't have the time to devote to one. And so that was kind of the big conflict, and I think that went on way too long, and that back and forth, like the romance was honestly the weakest part of the story, but I really like the way this author, and even in the other books, the way, like, it's a romance, and so that's obviously the focal point of the story, but the way she interweaves like real life in there, it makes it feel more realistic. It's like not all like, oh, they meet and like it's that's tunnel vision on the romance. Like real life is interwoven throughout, especially with in this one with Jazz and dealing with her aunt and such. Like it's done so well, and I really like that. But Jasmine was also bullied in school, and so it's like the smaller town where her aunt is at, and she was bullied in school, and so coming back there is always hard for her. Well, because he's a football player, he ends up making like I don't know what the terminology is, and I can't remember from the book, but like basically he was a practice player and then he was the backup player because one of the other guys got hurt. And then the guy that was the backup player that's now on the front line wasn't cutting it, and he got pulled in, and he did a really great job. So now he's like first string essentially. And so he's in the public eye, like everybody's talking about him, and a picture of her and him get leaked, and she's, battling that attention. And I liked how the author played that in there, but the way it affected their relationship, again, that conflict just kind of went on way too long. And Lamar kept telling her, like, talk to me, like, I need to know how you're feeling. But then he wouldn't do the same thing. Like, she would tell him, like, I want to be in a relationship, or I love you. And he wouldn't say anything. And so it's like, and you wonder why, like, she didn't know what was going on. Like, come on now. But overall, I really like these characters. I like, if you want, like, a good, hard hitting, emotional one, like, this is great. I really enjoyed the other two as well. Um, and so, yeah, I had a fantastic time. Even though it's still a 4-star, I really enjoyed that. So those are the 4 books I finished. I have 2 more books and 2 days to finish them. So fingers crossed I can get through them. So yesterday, while I was playing World of Warcraft with my husband, I did get the audiobook for Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. And I'm just shy. I'm 49% of the way through. And so just shy. I have 7 hours and 4 minutes left. So I'm planning on finishing this today. I'm going to get this video up, and then I debated whether I want to do chores or not. But I think what I'm going to do is just knit, because I really want to knit. So I'm going to listen to this and knit. So I will finish this one today. This one is for, again, I forget what it is for, what the card was, but it's for like rich people drama or characters who are wealthy, and this definitely fits the case. I figured it would, because she's an influencer who acts, like a trad wife, but behind the scenes she has like nannies and all this staff and such. And so really enjoying this so far. Like, she's not a likable character, and I've said, like, I don't mind reading an unlikable character if they make sense. And you definitely make sense. And I really like how the author, so you're kind of like, in the beginning it's present day, and she's putting on this persona for the camera, and she has all the nannies and her kids, and she has 5 kids, and she's pregnant with her 6th one. Then she goes back to like 1855, I think it says, where, like, the stuff she's pretending to do and putting on for the camera is stuff that you actually have to do in the past. And she has a different set of kids, a different, like, they're the same, but they're not. Like, it's a different reiteration of her life. So, like, she's still married to her husband, but he's different. And then her kids, like, it's not the same kids, but they're similar to her kids. And so you're going back and forth, but so you're present day, then you go back to like the 1855 timeline, and then it goes to like when she first met her husband in college, like when she first left, like she, left, I don't know if it was like a small town, but it's like, again, kind of that naivety, because she hasn't been exposed to the world. So there's that. And so she leaves for college, and she meets, like, she's exposed to all these different people, very Christian. So there's that element there as well. And she's like just shocked, like her roommate right off the bat, like, oh, we're drinking, we're having a start off party. And then her roommate gets it on with the guy while she's in the room. And so it's just kind of like culture shock for her. And so you're following her as she meets her, gets exposed to college, and she's just this like small town, very religious girl, and then meets her husband and the start of their relationship and how they ended up on this Yesteryear farm. So you're following that progression, and I do like that, because you kind of see like the progression and how she got to the point where she was at. So I did really like, I'm really enjoying that, and I like how the author is doing that. So like I said, I will for sure finish that. And this one does not work for the weekly challenge, the new one, which is to read a book that will progress a reading goal. This, I mean, other than reading the books I buy, like, as soon as possible, it's not really progressing any of my reading goals. So But I'm really enjoying it, and it does work, like I said, for the rich people drama pull. So there's that one, and then the last book I have is Kingdom of the Curse by Kerri Maniscalco. And again, I don't remember the card, but it's the has death in the synopsis, and the synopsis on this one doesn't, but the one on Goodreads does mention the death of her sister, which is the whole premise of the series. We're following Amelia and Victoria, and Victoria gets brutally murdered, and so Amelia is on this quest to find out what happened to her sister. And in the process, she ends up meeting one of the princes of hell and working with him to try to figure it out. And that was like the setup for the first one. And now we're continuing on with that. Enjoying it so far. It's not taking off very quickly. And so I'm like, let's get to the point. I made it to page, let's see here, 87. So I've read 87 pages of this book so far, and my plan is I'm gonna listen to Yesteryear and finish that up today, read a little bit more of this tonight, and then I'm just gonna have a full-on reading day tomorrow, which doesn't always work out for me if my brain's not playing nice, but I'm gonna have a full-on reading day tomorrow, and I should be able to finish this up depending on how much I get read tonight. Like, it's 400 and something pages. Let's see here. 433 pages. And so I'm almost at the 100-page mark. So you have like 350 pages. I can read that in a day, and I'll read some more of this tonight at bedtime. So I'm going to try to read a good chunk tonight because I always read better at night, and then once I go to sleep, and then tomorrow I'm going to push, and it's doable, but we'll just have to see if it's doable for my brain because my brain doesn't always play nice. So those are the two priorities for the last 2 days of this month. And then I'll obviously be working on I'll do chores. Um, I might still do chores today, just knock out the chores, because once the month turns over, I really like to work on my reading journal. So I may do chores today still, but I'm leaning towards listening and knitting. But my point is, I'll do my reading journal, I'll do chores. And so there's only two books that I really want two other books I want to get done this week. And that's my last book for my June TBR game, which is A Winter's Promise. This didn't work for any of the Tarot Readathon polls or anything like that, but it is my last book for my TBR game for June. And so I did give myself a reward when I played my July one, which that game should be out this Friday. I did give myself a reward because I'm fully planning on reading this. I put it in for Kim from Expedition Through Pages. We had a free pick. I was like, I'm putting this in for the free pick, so that will help motivate me to pick it up because I really do want to read this. I wanted to read it for a while, and then I do want to read the other book for Kim's game because we're having to do a bingo board which has all the prompts from the other teams. As a group, we have to black out that bingo board, and so I'm going to be going for the random country run, which we got Jamaica, North Macedonia, and what was the other one? I can't remember the other one, but I went for Jamaica because I didn't know this, but Nicola Yoon was born in Jamaica, so she's a Jamaican American author. So, and I've been wanting. I have a couple of this author's books, but this is the one that I've been most interested in. And so, yeah, I would like to just get all the prompts I already fulfilled with small favors because it was just a book on your current TBR. So I put small favors in for that. So I already fulfilled that prompt. So I just have the other two prompts. So that will be my free pick and my random country one. And so, yeah, these are the two books I would like to get read this week as well, if not just at least started and make good progress with. But the fact that I going to be pushing through these two in the 2 days, and then I'll have the rest of the week for these two. So that's kind of the plan for this week. Past that, it's going to be 4th of July weekend. My husband's going to try to take Thursday, Friday off. Well, Friday he was planning on taking off anyway, but Thursday he was going to also try to take off. And so he's going to have like a little 4-day weekend, and we're not really planning on doing anything. He wants to go over to his mom and grill. I may or may not go. It just depends on how I feel. But yeah, that's the plan. Like I said, just the 4 books, and one I'm halfway through, and the other like a fifth of the way through. So I've at least started those 2, and then the ones, both of those are YA books, so hopefully they'll read fairly quickly. And then I have a whole stack for the rest of the month, which is crazy. So, but that's kind of where we're at. I would love to know if you've read any of these books, if you're interested in reading any of these books now that I've talked about them a little bit. You can let me know that down in the comments below. If you just want to let me know you're here and you're helping to support the channel by leaving a comment, you can always leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji. Maybe leave a bee for small favors. Like I said, the bees did play a big part of that. But I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.